and snow moving into the Pacific Northwest and the West, too. Here's Christina.
We have quite a storm system lurking off the West Coast. It's spinning out here in the Pacific, and it's aimed right at the West Coast. Some upper-level energy moving in, and especially into parts of California into the Sierra, we are going to see a good bit of snow for you. Right now, all that moisture is offshore, but you can count on the winds increasing here in the Pacific Northwest and into California. You can also look for lower elevations to see rain, but higher elevations will be getting snow, and we could see some pretty substantial amounts, especially in the Sierra, but also into the Cascades. Our temperatures in the Northwest, 45 Seattle, 49 in Portland. It is much milder southward into LA, 75, 62 for you right now in San Diego. We begin to see that moisture moving in this evening into the Northwest, and we'll see generally light amounts through midnight, but look for the rain to be on the increase so that beyond this time frame, things are going to be very active for you tonight and into tomorrow here in the West. Snow, the Sierra, the Cascades, maybe some icy conditions in eastern Oregon. Well, that's it for the West. Now, Nick has a look at our forecast.
Let's take it.
Well, do you need answers? We've got them. At least we have answers to your weather-related questions. Tonight, you can chat online live with severe weather expert Dr. Greg Forbes. That's tonight between 8 and 9 Eastern on weather.com.
Well, in the meantime, we hope you'll stay with us. We've got some travel problems to talk about.
And we'll tell you all about it coming up next on TravelWise. Stay with us. Well, it's time now for TravelWise, and we're watching snow in the upper Midwest, rain and snow in the Northeast, some wet weather moving through New York, but into western New York, around Buffalo, and then back into Youngstown, Ohio, actually getting some light snow falling for you. Then with the system moving through the upper Midwest, it's snowing quite heavily right now in Fargo, and it's also pretty windy out there, so blowing snow is a concern, but head farther south, it's all wet weather for you. Now, this is our travel trouble spot because of the rain, the snow, and the windy conditions for that matter, and just a closer view shows where that snow is falling. Here from Minnesota up into the Dakotas, then farther southward, all rain. We could actually see scattered showers all the way southward to the Gulf Coast, but in the Northeast, rain and sometimes seeing that mixing in with snow at times from Michigan up into northern New England. We'll also look for a system in the west. It's actually off the coast right now. It's going to be moving in tonight, and that's going to mean an increase in the winds, the rain, and the mountain snow, and you can also look for eventually those snow levels to lower in the Cascades and the Sierra. A few thunderstorms are possible here in Texas, especially southeastern Texas, Houston, down toward Galveston, and those winds really howling here through the plain states. The pressure difference between an area of low pressure and high pressure are meaning winds have been gusting to 50 miles per hour and more. Now, a quick check of international weather. Rain in the forecast. London and Paris for your Wednesday. Temperatures in the 50s. We'll look for rain in Bali at 89 degrees and La Paz 64 and partly cloudy skies. Stay tuned for more coming up next. Well, let's take a look at that weekend forecast, starting out with some wintry weather for the Army-Navy game in Annapolis, Maryland. We're looking for snow in the forecast with a high of 39 degrees, so some cold football weather out there and some wintry football weather too. The Christmas festival in Natchitoches, Louisiana, look for partly cloudy skies on Saturday with a high around 59 degrees. The weather not too bad for you. Christmas in the Villages in Van Buren County, Iowa. Looks good for you too. Partly cloudy, a good bit of sunshine actually with a high of 43. And finally, the Dickens Country Christmas in Cambridge, Wisconsin. 38 degrees on Sunday, and you too will see just a few clouds around. A pretty nice day, but a little on the cold side. Nothing you can't handle at this time of year in this part of the country. We're seeing cold weather again in the northern half of the country, a little milder to the south. In southern California, southern Arizona, southern Florida, look for high temperatures getting up into the 70s, so nice and mild for you around Miami and over toward Phoenix. But we will have some wet weather to talk about in the Northwest, snow for the mountains of the Northwest, and we could also see some snow here from eastern Ohio over toward New Jersey. That should be winding down for Sunday, and it looks like we're going to see a very quiet weather day for most of the eastern half of the country on Sunday. Different story for you in the Northwest, though. You can expect more rain, more mountain snow, and cool temperatures, 40s and 30s there, but once again you'll find the mildest temperatures in the southern half of the U.S. Here's a look at our current situation. We'll have more on this next on Storm Watch.
There are some flurries flying around the Midwest, and the Dakotas and Minnesota are seeing a mixture of snow and rain. It's chilly in the Northeast, but the South is warm. Hi and welcome to Weather Center. I'm Nick Walker along with Christina Abernathy.
Thanks for joining us. There's a storm system moving into the Pacific Northwest. We'll tell you about that in a moment. But first, the Midwest and the Northeast, where you've had your share of interesting weather today. We're actually seeing rain right now in New York with also a bit of snow out there. We've had snow in Buffalo and southward toward Youngstown. So a little bit of snow here as some of the colder weather is in place, but head off to the east and much of what we're seeing for you is rain. Look out around Glens Falls. And again, look out around Buffalo because snow continues to affect you. Temperatures are chilly in Buffalo, 33 right now, 40 in Burlington, 50 in Philly and in New York City, so not so bad out there for you. We will be looking for rain, but not a lot of rain or snow, at least not through midnight, but we are expecting a system to head your way in the Northeast so we go through.
It has been a pretty nice day weather-wise for many of you this Tuesday, but there are some trouble spots we're keeping a close eye on. A powerful storm is threatening the Northwest, while snow is the top story in the Midwest. Details ahead.
Quite a bit of snow fell in Summit County, Colorado. That's good news to skiers, but you can get too much of a good thing. Earlier today, Loveland Pass was closed while crews blasted to bring down unstable snow.
Here's a sneak peek at your weather for Wednesday. Some stormy weather makes its way into the Northwest, bringing some flurries to northern New England. And look for snow in the Great Lakes and showers from Pennsylvania to the Texas Gulf Coast. You're going to see sunny skies in the Central Plains and a wintry mix of precipitation in the Pacific Northwest. Good evening. Welcome to this edition of Weather Center, sponsored by Kyocera Mita Digital Office Machines. I'm Nick Walker.
And I'm Christina Abernathy. Thanks for joining us. Well, let's take a closer look at what's going on in the Midwest and the Northeast, where we've been getting some wet weather, but also some wintry weather for some of you. In the Northeast, it's rain, but head into western New York, and we have at times seen snow around Buffalo, for example, getting reports of snow as well as down toward Jamestown. Some light snow is falling there. Rain, though, is more common here across the Northeast, but we do want to watch out because a storm system that's going to be moving in tomorrow could bring a little more wintry weather your way. We'll have more on that coming up in just a moment. Right now, it's just, again, some wet weather for you up toward Rochester and Syracuse, but Buffalo, you have been reporting snow with a temperature right around 33 degrees. You're in the 40s from Boston, New York, and Philly down toward Washington, D.C., where you're actually at 51 degrees right now. We will expect snow in parts of northern New England, but generally less than 3 inches of snow, and the rain that falls should be fairly light too. But remember, a sneak peek of that forecast, we will be watching this area of low pressure spreading some icy conditions into Indiana and Ohio, and eventually we could see some snow as we head on into the Northeast. Well, right now in the upper Midwest and the Midwest, we're seeing snow to the north, rain to the south. Some of the snow has been rather heavy at times in parts of the Dakotas. We also had near blizzard conditions earlier today. It was really a snowy day in parts of North and South Dakota. As you can see, it was really coming down at times in Aberdeen, South Dakota. The temperature got above 30 this afternoon, but remember, you are under a snow advisory until 10 tonight, so be careful out there. The snow continues to come down for some of you, and we're actually still seeing some pretty strong winds out there as we have this area of low pressure, a high off to the west. The pressure difference is making for some very gusty winds. We do have some rain out there too, but it's really the snow that we're keeping a particularly close eye on from Minneapolis, St. Paul up toward St. Cloud and over toward Fargo, where at times you've seen some heavy snow today. Then on southward, it's wet weather, Des Moines over toward Cedar Rapids. Snowfall heaviest in a swath from the Dakotas into Minnesota, where 3 to 6 inches of snow is possible for you. And temperatures, well, they are cool. 32 in Minneapolis, 27 in Bismarck, 35 in Chicago. Here are those windy conditions I've been mentioning. Winds gusting 30, 40, over 50 miles per hour. That's giving you low wind chill readings, causing some blowing snow out there, and those wind chills below 0 in Bismarck and Williston, single digits for Sioux Falls and Fargo, 16 your wind chill in Minneapolis. Well, tomorrow morning we will see more snow out there in Minneapolis, over toward Green Bay, Milwaukee, Chicago, and once again those icy conditions. And we're actually going to be keeping an eye on this area of low pressure not only tomorrow morning, but through the day. Let's take a look at the snowmaker that we're dealing with. A deepening area of low pressure here is eventually going to mean some light accumulating snow here through parts of Ohio and Indiana and into Michigan. That low will move eastward and it will deepen, so by Thursday we could see that snow accumulating here through southern New England. We'll be keeping a close eye on Boston, Hartford, back down to New York City, all the way into eastern Pennsylvania. We'll keep you posted on that. Well, that's it for the Northeast and the Midwest. Now, Nick has a look a little farther south.
Christina?
Well, we have quite a storm system lurking here off the west coast, and as that moves in, we're going to see winds on the increase, rain on the increase, and also snow, maybe even some icy conditions out there. It hasn't moved on shore yet, but it will, and we are looking for quite a messy day for you as we go through tonight and actually into tomorrow. Our temperatures in the 40s in Seattle and Portland, 52 in Medford, 60 for you in San Diego, but once again, we are going to see some wintry weather out there, including some icy conditions in the interior Northwest. One area that saw snow earlier, though, that was in Colorado, where you have some good news there for the skiers. Make your ski plans there. Loveland Ski Resort saw some of that heavy snow. It made for a fun day on the slopes, but the drivers weren't quite so happy. Earlier today, Loveland Pass was closed while crews blasted to bring down unstable snow in a controlled manner. Again, we are going to be seeing some snow out here, heaviest amounts in the northern Sierra and on into the Cascades, and once again, we will be looking for icy conditions here too. Nick?
Back to the studio.
All right, thanks a lot, Paul. Well, our new magazine show, Atmospheres, shows you how weather can affect so many facets of life. See how weather can prove quite a match for our nation's best defense, the aircraft carrier. Plus, get ready for some thrills and chills at the Oshkosh Air Show. These aren't just avid pilots, they're avid weather watchers too. You can catch Atmospheres Wednesday night at 8 and 11 p.m. right here on the Weather Channel.
In the meantime, stay with us. Travel One's coming up.
Don't go away. Well, it's time now for a look at our weekly planner, and what we're actually going to see as we start out the forecast is a system that's now moving through the upper Midwest is going to move through the Great Lakes and on toward the Northeast and bring some snow to some of you. And we also have quite a system that's moving into the west with rain and mountain snow, also some icy conditions on tap for you. Let's take a look at that forecast for tomorrow. And what a mess we're dealing with here across the Great Lakes all the way down to the Gulf Coast. Now, on the southern end of this, it's all going to be in the form of rain, especially during the morning hours here in the lower Mississippi Valley. The farther north we go, though, the more cold air we have in place, so we will see some light snow through the Great Lakes and eventually into the afternoon and evening hours. We'll see some of that rain and snow moving on into the northeast. But notice that in between, we also have that wintry mix of precipitation here. So we'll be keeping a close eye on northern Ohio because things could be especially messy for you. Now in the west, we've got a storm system that's right now lurking just offshore. During the overnight hours, we do think it's going to make its way inland so that by tomorrow morning, you'll see those winds on the increase. You'll see more rain, more snow, and more of that wintry mix of precipitation in eastern Oregon and eastern Washington. So look out around Spokane, for example. It could be a real mess for you. And remember, it's also going to be very windy here around Seattle and Portland, and rain for you into San Francisco too, with snow in the Sierra and in the Cascades. We will still see some snow in the Cascades on Thursday and still very rainy and windy for you in western Washington and Oregon, but snow showers are also possible on into the Bitterroots. Our system in the east is actually still going to be hanging around, but it is a pretty quick mover, so it's just during the morning hours that we're expecting snow, and that's especially true here in southern New England, but snow showers are possible in New York, central and southern New England, back into Pennsylvania. Then the next system moves into the northern plains in the upper Midwest, and that also is going to be producing some light snow from the Dakotas to Minnesota and to Wisconsin. So light snow around Minneapolis, St. Paul, over toward Milwaukee, Fargo. You could see some of that snow too. Things quieting down for a lot of you in the northeast, but this next system quickly moves in and brings the snow chances to Chicago, Indianapolis, Detroit, Cleveland, Erie, maybe even Pittsburgh. But farther south, again, where those temperatures are a little warmer, that's where you may see some rain mixing in too. And we can't seem to get rid of the showery conditions in the northwest, both rain showers and higher elevation snow showers there. It becomes a little more widespread and the rain becomes a little heavier for Saturday. So this Saturday, definitely not the weekend for outdoor plans in the northwest because the rain and the wind is really going to put a damper on things. The snow, once again, the Cascades all the way into the Sierra, especially the northern Sierra. We could even see a few showers in southern Texas and here in the mid-Atlantic states, snow showers to rain showers a little farther south. Things really quiet down on Sunday for really the eastern half of the country. No precipitation at all in your forecast, except here in southern Texas. That's where we could continue to see some scattered showers, maybe around Brownsville. And a lot of green on the map in the northwest. So Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, Sacramento, rain for you. But again, you head to the higher elevations and snow, and hopefully that's some good news for the skiers. But if you're traveling in these areas, you probably don't want to hear about the snow. It will settle on southward Monday. Rain perhaps as far south as LA and San Diego. A few scattered showers in eastern Florida. Watch out around Daytona Beach. That could affect you. And snow showers here in the upper Midwest that will affect you into the northeast for Tuesday. Well, our temperatures for the most part are going to be coolest in the northern half of the country. We're talking about 20s, 30s, and 40s here. But to the south, it will be a little milder with some 60s, 70s, and in southwestern Arizona, even some 80s for high temperatures. So around Phoenix and Brownsville, Tampa, Miami, that's where things will tend to be in the 70s. So if you like the mild weather, that's the place to go. But northward, it is definitely going to be cool. Nothing that you can't handle at this time of year in this part of the country, but nevertheless a little bit on the chilly side. Chicago over toward Buffalo, Cleveland, your temperatures getting into the 30s, and in the 40s around New York City and Boston. Not much of a change for your Sunday, maybe just a little warmer up through Wyoming and Montana. We will see cold weather overnight too, especially in the interior west down into the single digits, but once again, mildest along the Gulf Coast, and we're not going to see any real big changes in that over the next several days. Just some very chilly lows for those overnight temperatures. And stay tuned. We'll have more coming up next on Weather Center.
It has been a pretty nice day for many of us this Tuesday, but there are some trouble spots that we're keeping a close eye on. A powerful storm is threatening the northwest, while snow is the top story in the Midwest. Details ahead.
And as we said, the snow is falling in parts of the Midwest. You saw quite a bit of snow today in the Dakotas. We'll let you know where else the snowflakes will fall coming up.
Here's a peek at your weather for Wednesday. Look for flurries in northern New England, snow in the Great Lakes, and showers from Pennsylvania to the Texas Gulf Coast. You're going to see sunny skies in the Central Plains and a wintry mix of precipitation in the Pacific Northwest. Good evening and welcome to this edition of Weather Center, sponsored by Prescription Prevacid. I'm Nick Walker.
And I'm Christina Abernathy. Thanks for joining us. Well, let's take a closer look at the conditions in the Midwest and the Northeast, where we have seen some wintry weather and some wet weather for you. We're actually seeing some wet weather in parts of New York, but also back into the Midwest. We'll take a closer look at that coming up. The rain is falling, though, in New York State, although in western New York we have had some reports of snow around Buffalo, and also some light snow has been reported around Jamestown. But a lot of you are just seeing some wet weather, especially over towards Syracuse and Glens Falls, where temperatures right now, well, for most of the Northeast in the 30s and 40s. 48 in Boston, 49 in New York and Philly, 42 in Albany, and you're at 33 in Buffalo. We will look for a bit of rain, but it's not expected to be heavy, with snow in northern New England, but not a lot of snow for you. Actually, things could get a little more interesting in our forecast here. Wintry weather is headed to the northeast. We'll see snow, we will see some rain, and also some icy conditions, Indiana into Ohio. And as this system moves eastward through the day and into tomorrow night, we will see wintry weather moving into the northeast. Get ready for that. Well, we have wintry weather now in the Dakotas and Minnesota, rain to the south, but earlier today it was in Michigan where we saw some of the snow. You were getting some snow flurries out there in the Motor City. It was only a brief burst and the snow did not accumulate. You could see more snow tomorrow, so bundle up. The temperatures won't get past the upper 30s. Now, a closer look at tomorrow's forecast. We will start out the day around 33 in Detroit, warming up only to 35, and snow moving in by mid-afternoon with northeasterly winds at 10 miles per hour. Well, again, we've got some snow and some rain out there. The snow has been really falling for some areas in the Dakotas. We had near blizzard conditions earlier, and it's still snowing for some of you. It's still pretty gusty out there. We've got an area of low pressure here with a high off to the west, and that pressure difference is making for some windy conditions. But again, we're also seeing snow, snowing heavily at times in Fargo. We've also seen some snow in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and over toward Eau Claire. While we go southward, and it's been all rain for you in Des Moines, moving over toward Cedar Rapids and Dubuque. We do think the rain will be fairly light, though. Once again, 1/10 of an inch or so. A swath of snow, 3 to 6 inches from the Dakotas into southern Minnesota, where temperatures right now are chilly. 34 in Minneapolis, 32 in Chicago, 38 in Des Moines. But through the Dakotas, those winds have been gusting 20, 30, 40, even 50 miles, 6 inches from the Dakotas into southern Minnesota, where temperatures right now are chilly. 34 in Minneapolis, 32 in Chicago, 38 in Des Moines. But through the Dakotas, those winds have been gusting 20, 30, 40, even 50 miles per hour. And with that, blowing snow is a concern, but also low wind chill readings in the single digits below 0 in Bismarck and Williston, 9 in Sioux Falls, and Minneapolis, it feels like 16 for you. More snow in your forecast in Minneapolis, St. Paul tomorrow. And once again, we're keeping a close eye on this area of low pressure in the Ohio Valley, eventually spreading wintry weather into the northeast. Well, that's it for the northeastern quarter of the country. Now, Nick has a look at the southeast.
The west.
Well, we are seeing the storm system right off the west coast. It's going to be moving in tonight and into tomorrow, and it will be spreading some rain, some icy conditions, and some snow for the mountains. You can see the rain all lurking offshore. Also look for an increase in the winds as the system moves in, and some upper level energy headed right for California. So the Sierra and eventually up into the Cascades, you'll be seeing some snow. Our temperatures in the 40s in Seattle and Portland. San Francisco, you're at 53 degrees right now. Look at your forecast tomorrow in San Francisco. Shows rain to start out the day and rain to end the day, with temperatures getting into the mid-50s. So you will be affected by the storm system. Well, we do look for not only the rain, but also snow, the Cascades, the Sierra, the Bitterroots, and watch out for icy conditions here in parts of Idaho, Washington, and Oregon. Doesn't take much ice to cause big problems on the roads. Heaviest snow will be in the southern Cascades, with half a foot of snow or more possible. So again, watch for this next system to move in. Nick? Thanks, Paul. Well, our new magazine show, Atmospheres, shows you how weather can affect so many facets of life. See how weather can prove quite a match for our nation's best defense, the aircraft carrier. Plus, get ready for some thrills and chills at the Oshkosh Air Show. These aren't just avid pilots, they're avid weather watchers, too. You can catch Atmospheres Wednesday night at 8 and 11 p.m. right here on the Weather Channel.
And you can catch TravelWise coming up. Stay with us.
Well, we have a couple of areas to tell you about this evening that could be a little bit messy if you have to travel. In the northeast, we've got rain and even a bit of snow in western New York. We're seeing rain in the Midwest, but you go farther northward and it's all falling as snow. And you're also seeing some rather windy conditions for some areas too, especially back into the Dakotas. But areas that could see snow do include Minneapolis, St. Paul. While we head southward, some of that rain will be changing over to snow overnight, so it could be a wintry time as you wake up tomorrow morning here through southern Wisconsin and parts of Iowa, especially eastern Iowa. And also here into western New York, the rain is mixed with snow at times. So we've got a lot going on in the northeast, in the Midwest, but also in the west, because we have quite a storm system moving in. Look for winds to be on the increase. You'll see the rain moving in, higher elevation snow, and as that moisture overrides some colder air that's in place, we'll also see some icy conditions from Washington and Oregon into Idaho. So that can cause all sorts of problems on the roads. Doesn't take much ice to cause big problems out there. Windy conditions in the plains, and as I mentioned, winds will be increasing along the northwest coast and on into northern California. Rain and snow in the northeast. Look for more of that tomorrow morning for your commute. We'll see rain all the way down to the Gulf Coast and more rain Houston and New Orleans with temperatures in the 50s tomorrow morning.
of all-wheel drive at a Subaru dealer near you.
Well, it's time now for the Weekend Outlook, which is sponsored by Triaminic Soft Chew Tablets. Well, we'll look at what's in store for the weekend. A few events coming up, including the Natchitoches Christmas Festival in Louisiana. We will see a high of 59 degrees Saturday with partly cloudy skies. Looks good for you. Christmas in the Villages in Van Buren County, Iowa. You too should see a good bit of sunshine with a high of 43 on Sunday. And the Dickens Country Christmas in Cambridge, Wisconsin, 38 and partly cloudy. So coolest temperatures this weekend in the north, milder to the south. Some snow showers in the mid-Atlantic states, snow showers in the west with higher elevation snows in particular, and rainy, windy conditions in the Pacific Northwest. And you'll see more rain, more mountain snow in the west for Sunday, but a very quiet day across most of the east. Temperatures coolest in the northeast, 20s and 30s for your highs. Well, if you want to stay tuned, coming up next, we'll have more on Storm Watch. Don't go away. Snow and rain are falling from Indiana into Pennsylvania. Some places are getting a wintry mix of the two elements. Where is this precipitation heading? That answer is coming your way. As we move to the Pacific Northwest, there's rain in Seattle. Actually, rain stretches down to northern California and Nevada. The higher elevations, though, will see snow. The story of two storms is headed your way. Hi and welcome to Weather Center. I'm Christina Abernathy along with Nick Walker.
We sure thank you for joining us this afternoon, and we do have rain in the southeast to tell you about too. But first we want to start with that snow and that rain for you from there. Christina?
Well, that's right. A system moved in overnight and it has brought rain earlier, some windy conditions, and we have also seen some We've also seen some snow out there, especially in some of the higher elevations. So some wintry weather is certainly around for you here in especially the mountains of the west. Here's that system. We're seeing that producing rain here along the coastal areas, but head inland and we have seen snow and even some icy conditions in parts of the interior northwest. Back to the south, though, it's been snow for you in parts of the Sierra, including the Tahoe Valley. But farther southward earlier today around LA, we had some fog that reduced your visibilities out there, really hanging around. The fog has since lifted, but we're still seeing a bit of a hazy sky out there, so no precipitation around at the moment. And good news that the fog has lifted, but again, still some hazy conditions for you. Well, let's take a look at this precipitation that we're seeing here in the northwest. And what we've been seeing around Seattle, some rain for you over toward Hoquiam, but then head eastward towards Spokane. And what you've been seeing earlier today is some sleet and freezing rain as that moisture overrides that colder air that's in place. But right now we're getting reports of snow here, and you are under a winter weather advisory for much of eastern Washington. But to the south, it's winter storm warnings for you here in parts of the Sierra, including Tahoe Valley, where we are getting some reports of snow there, but it's all rain over towards Sacramento and also moving into northwestern California. So that's what we're going to expect, just some general unsettled conditions here with higher elevation snow. Our temperatures right now, well, we're at 43 in Seattle and in Portland, 48 in Medford, 75 in Phoenix, and it looks like we're not getting any reports from San Francisco or LA, but awfully chilly here in Lander at 19 degrees right now. Well, we will continue to look for rain, for snow, and for that wintry mix of precipitation, maybe some icy conditions mixing in for some of you. Snowfall amounts heaviest in the Cascades of Oregon and into the Sierra. The highest elevations could pick up half a foot of snow or more. We will look for a little quieter scenario tomorrow in the Sierra, but not so in the Northwest and the Northern Rockies. Now with a look a little farther to the south and east. Here's Nick.
Dina?
Well, we are looking for a soggy forecast for some of you in the northeast and maybe some wintry weather mixed in too. We've been seeing that in parts of Pennsylvania and Ohio, over into parts of Michigan. That front trailing back to the south, and along that just some scattered showers across the deep south, but we have a couple of other bands of showers that we're watching moving through Florida. So some wet weather just sort of scattered, not necessarily a washout for you. In the northwest, rain and snow, and in parts of the interior northwest, icy conditions. We will still see some snow in the northern Rockies into tomorrow morning. High pressure in the southeast, and we'll definitely be keeping a close eye on this area of low pressure because it could produce sort of a burst of snow for some area here across the Northeast. So look out for the chance for some wintry weather tomorrow morning. As we go through the day, that will all move out. It's a quick moving system, and we're not expecting much precipitation for you here. Locally, heavy rain, though, in southern Florida. An inch of rain or more possible. Heavy snows in the mountains of the west. Cold temperatures for a lot of us overnight. And here are those highs, mildest in the southwest and southern Florida. Nick?
You can catch Atmospheres tonight at 8 and 11 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on the Weather Channel with Jim Cantori and Mish Michaels. Don't miss it.
And you'll also want to stay tuned because coming up next, we have much more on your extended forecast.
That's right. Your weekly planner just ahead.
Thanks for joining us here at the Weather Channel. I'm Christina Abernathy along with Nick Walker. We've got some active weather in the east and in the west. In the east, it's this area of low pressure moving here through the Great Lakes region. In some areas, it's just cold enough that we are seeing some snow falling here in Indiana and Michigan. And then especially as we head into some of the higher elevations into the northeast, that's where we're tending to see some of the snow falling. Elsewhere, it's falling as rain. And then follow this front southward here through the deep south, and we are seeing a little bit of wet weather for you in Louisiana and Mississippi. Northern Georgia, you've seen a few showers, and then look into Florida. Two more bands of showers moving through central Florida and then another to the south where we could actually see some locally heavy rain falling for you. In the northwest, it's rain and mountain snow, and we're also seeing as that moisture overrides some of that colder air that's in place in eastern Washington. At times, we have seen some sleet and freezing rain and also some snow, so kind of a mixed bag of precipitation for you here. Our temperatures in the northwest are in the 40s now in Seattle and Portland, but in the interior sections of the northwest, it's a little chillier, some of you only in the 20s. But Phoenix, you're at 75 degrees right now, 65 in Houston, 51 in Atlanta, and then northward we go where those temperatures are in the 30s from Chicago to Detroit over toward Buffalo, but 47 right now around Boston. So it's, again, not too bad, nothing unbearable out there, but for some of you it's just cold enough again that we are seeing some snow falling in southern Michigan, northern and western Indiana, but notice that we're also seeing, once again, that wintry mix of precipitation for you here in northern Ohio, so we will be watching for snow, rain, maybe some icy conditions mixing in. Snow is falling for you here from western New York back into Pennsylvania, and all this is moving on eastward, and eventually we could see the chance for some wintry weather in some parts of New England and New York. We'll have to keep a real close eye on that for you. The back edge of this precipitation back into Indiana and Illinois where just some light snow showers falling here. All this rotating around an area of low pressure that has meant a little bit of a messy time for some of you here in the Ohio Valley and into the Northeast. Here's the front I was mentioning earlier, draped from the Carolinas back into the lower Mississippi Valley. It looks like the most widespread rain right now, southern Louisiana, southern Mississippi, but another batch here through the upstate of South Carolina and into North Carolina, and also back down toward the Keys. Things are a little on the soggy side for you, while the rain here to the north is tending to move offshore. Our final stop takes us here to the west where we're getting some snow around Tahoe Valley. A winter storm warning's in effect for you, and winter weather advisories in effect here to the north around Spokane, where right now we are getting reports of snow here, although earlier in Spokane we did have some sleet and freezing rain falling. So we'll be watching out for all of that. Sort of a heavy wet snow, wintry mix, and then some wet weather, maybe mixing in with snow at times, just kind of a mixed bag of precipitation, and we'll see a similar situation in the northwest. Now with more on our forecast, here's Nick. Snow and rain are falling from Indiana into Pennsylvania. Some places are getting a wintry mix. Where is the precipitation heading? That answer is coming your way. As we move to the Pacific Northwest, there's rain in Seattle. Actually, rain stretches down to northern California and Nevada. The higher elevations will see snow. The story of two storms is coming your way. Hi, and welcome to Weather Center. I'm Christina Abernathy along with Nick Walker.
Thanks for joining us. We do have rain in the southeast to tell you about as well, a little bit of rain. But first, let's begin with the snow and the rain and the snow there. Christina?
Well, we've seen quite a storm system that's moved into the west, and that has meant some windy conditions. We have seen rain, and we're continuing to see that, and also some higher elevation snow. And in some portions of the interior Northwest, we've even seen some icy conditions here in eastern Washington. Earlier in Spokane, we had some sleet and some freezing rain for you. It's changed back over to snow, so kind of a mess for you here in the Northwest. You can see the rain scattered about, but what we saw earlier in Southern California was some fog. That was affecting you around Los Angeles. You can see it really just hanging on there, making for a sort of murky start to your day. It did lift, and we're not seeing the foggy conditions there now, but it has been replaced with some rather hazy conditions for you. Well, again, we are seeing some rain, we're seeing some snow, seeing some icy conditions, and as I mentioned, the winds are also gusting in some areas 20, 30, 40 miles per hour, so pretty blustery, especially in some of those higher elevations. You've got some rain now from Hoquiam up towards Seattle. It's going to be kind of a soggy night for you, but over in eastern Washington, we have some winter weather advisories in effect around Spokane, and again, you've had the icy conditions, but also seeing some snow there now. Winter storm warnings in effect for parts of the Sierra. We're expecting some pretty substantial amounts of snow for you. It's snowing right now at Tahoe Valley, but head back towards Sacramento and San Francisco, and what you can expect is some wet weather there. Our temperatures are in the 40s in Seattle and Portland and Medford, 60s in San Francisco and San Diego, 50s for you in Salt Lake City, and it's 38 right now for you in Denver. Well, in the Northwest, look for the rain. It could extend as far south as Northern California. Snow not only in the Sierra, but also into the Cascades. And watch out here from eastern Oregon over into western Montana, because that's where we could see that wintry mix of precipitation. Anything from snow to ice to rain mixing in, enough to make for some problems out there on the roads. As far as snowfall, we look for half a foot of snow or more from Oregon southward into the Sierra. And tomorrow, we'll still see some snow hanging around in the Northwest. Now, with a look at the southeast, here's Nick. Well, the forecast will call for some wet weather scattered across Florida, rain with some snow here in the northeast, and we'll actually be keeping a close eye on this area of low pressure because it could eventually, as we go through this evening and into tomorrow, bring some snow, perhaps a burst of snow to some areas here in the northeast. We'll be keeping a close eye on that for you, while in the northwest it's snow in the northern Rockies that may be winding down somewhat by the early evening hours, and any snow that does fall in the northeast, well, it will be ending as we go through the day because that system will quickly move away. Our snowfall amounts heaviest, of course, in the mountains of the west. Rainfall heaviest in southern Florida. In the Keys, we could see an inch of rain or more, so that's enough to cause a bit of soggy weather, enough to cause some concerns for you. Temperatures are going to be cool in the northern half of the country overnight, definitely cool for you. It's going to be chilly in the south, but some areas in southern Texas, southern Florida only dipping down into the 50s and 60s, so not quite so bad there, and really warming up nicely tomorrow in the southwest and southern Florida into the 70s, but the northern tier states, 20s, 30s, and 40s for you. Nick?
Eastern time, right here on the Weather Channel. Lots for you tonight.
And you'll want to stay tuned because coming up we'll update your travel conditions.
That's right. Travel-wise, just ahead.
Thanks for joining us for Storm Watch, which is sponsored by Safe Step. I'm Christina Abernathy. We do have some interesting weather to tell you about in the northeast as well as in the west. One system in the east is providing you with rain, with snow, with even some icy conditions mixed in at times. While to the west, we are dealing with rain, mountain snow, and especially in parts of the interior northwest, we have seen some icy conditions for you too. Earlier in Spokane, getting some reports of sleet and even some freezing rain. Now you're reporting snow and you are under winter weather advisories there. Pretty quiet through most of the central U.S., but in the southeast you are seeing occasional scattered showers along this front, and certainly some rain for you in southern Florida, especially around the Keys. We actually want to start a little farther north here where you can see the precipitation rotating with that area of low pressure. Well, we're seeing snow across many areas in Indiana. Most of the precipitation that you're seeing is either snow or in some instances, especially in northern Indiana, maybe even a rain-snow mix. And we've even had some reports of icy precipitation mixing in here up around Kalamazoo and Michigan. But head into Ohio, you too have seen that mixed bag of precipitation. It's just sort of a mess here actually through the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes region. Just cold enough in some areas that precipitation is falling as snow or as icy precipitation out there. So a lot of what you're seeing here in Indiana is snow, but head into Ohio and anything from rain to snow to a rain-snow mix here for you. What we'll be looking for is generally light amounts of snow and rain, no more than 3 inches of snow and 1/10 of an inch of rain at best for most areas. We will be watching this system moving on eastward though, and that could eventually bring some snow into parts of the northeast as that low moves through the northeast tonight and into tomorrow morning, eventually offshore as we go through the day tomorrow. It is going to be a pretty quick mover, so for the most part not any tremendous amounts of snow, but we could see some locally heavy pockets of maybe 3 or more inches of snow. It's something we'll keep an eye on. Just stay tuned to the Weather Channel. We'll keep you updated. Again, at times here in northern Ohio, that wintry mix of precipitation, especially in some of the higher elevations here, your precipitation could be falling as snow. And notice that it hasn't yet made it into New York City, but we are seeing that rain moving through Baltimore and D.C., so we'll continue to keep an eye on that for you too. In the west, what we've got is rain, mountain snow, but also some windy conditions. We've seen those winds gusting 30 and 40 miles per hour here in the interior west. And again, the higher elevations especially are getting the windy conditions. Snowing now in eastern Washington and Oregon. Also snowing in the Sierra. Winter storm warnings in effect for part of the northern Sierra. Snowing right now at Tahoe Valley. Look for more rain in Seattle. The eastern part of the state, though, you'll see the snow, and also expecting that snow here through the Sierra. And as I mentioned, snowing now around Tahoe Valley. And we could pick up 1/2 foot to 1 foot of snow this evening through the Cascades of Oregon and on into the Sierra. We've got some rain for you scattered across the southeast, all associated with a cold front moving through. And right now, some of the heavier rains have been falling here in southern Florida and back down toward the Keys. But we've also seen a little bit of wet weather moving through southern Louisiana. But again, rainfall amounts are expected to be fairly light. Here's a quick look at your forecast. If you want to stay tuned, we'll have more on this coming up next on Weather Center. Snow and rain are falling from Indiana into Pennsylvania. Some places are actually getting a wintry mix. Where is this precipitation heading? That answer's coming up. As we move to the Pacific Northwest, there's rain in Seattle. You can actually see rain stretching down to northern California and Nevada. The higher elevations, though, you'll be seeing snow. The story of 2 storms is coming your way. Hi and welcome to Weather Center. I'm Christina Abernathy along with Nick Walker.
Thanks for joining us. We do have rain in the southeast to tell you about, but first we want to begin with that snow and the rain and snow for you. Christina?
Well, quite a system has moved into the west, and it has brought rain and mountain snow, but also some rather windy conditions for you too. Here's where we're seeing the rain. It's from Washington and Oregon back into California, but we've also seen snow and even some icy conditions at times, especially in eastern Washington. A little farther south, not seeing much precipitation, but we did have some fog earlier in Southern California. Around Los Angeles, the fog really set in this morning. You needed the headlights to make your way to work. The fog did lift during the afternoon, but it was replaced by some rather hazy conditions out there. Well, we again are seeing some rain and snow. The rain has moved into Seattle now, also back toward Olympia and Hoquiam. But eastward, the precipitation that you're seeing around Spokane has been falling as snow. Earlier today, sleet and freezing rain there. Now it's snow, and we do have winter weather advisories in effect for you. But we've also seen some snow here to the south. Tahoe Valley reporting some snow with winds gusting to 30 miles per hour. So it is awfully windy out there. And for parts of the Sierra, we do have winter storm warnings in effect in anticipation of the snow here. So we'll be watching that, but we'll also be watching those temperatures, which are in the 40s in Seattle and Portland. You're at 62 in San Diego, 70s for you in Las Vegas and Phoenix, and 20 right now in Lander. So definitely some cold weather in the interior northwest. And watch out, we'll see rain here, we'll see snow, the Cascades into the Sierra, and that wintry mix of precipitation here from Washington into Montana, where we could see sleet or maybe freezing rain or snow or rain mixing in. So it's just kind of a mess for you, and we do think that snowfall amounts could be 1/2 foot or more from the Cascades of Oregon on into the Sierra. Tomorrow things will be a little quieter for you here in California, but still expecting some snow to the north. Now with more on the southeast. Here's Nick.
And Christina?
Well, more rain and snow and maybe some icy conditions mixed in here in the northeast this evening, and also looking for rain and snow and some icy conditions mixed in the northwest. We'll still see snow tomorrow morning in the northern Rockies with maybe some rain back toward the Pacific Northwest. But in the east, we're going to be keeping a very close eye on this area of low pressure moving through the Ohio Valley off the northeast coast. We're expecting some wintry weather for you here in the northeast, parts of Pennsylvania, New York, into southern New England. And we could see some locally heavier bursts of snow, so it's something we'll continue to watch for you here across the northeast. But it's a quick moving low, and we think it's going to be out of the picture by tomorrow evening, with most of the precipitation out of the northeast, except maybe in parts of eastern New England. Snow moving into the northern plains, but most of the southern half of the country nice and quiet. Locally heavy amounts of rain in the Keys this evening, though, and heavy amounts of snow in the mountains of the northwest. We will be looking for some chilly weather out there overnight, teens, 20s, and 30s for a lot of us. And here are your highs for Thursday. Nick?
Time right here on the Weather Channel. We hope you join Jim Cantori and Mish Michaels for all the action.
And we hope you'll join us coming up next. We've got more on your extended forecast.
Stay right here.
Thanks for joining us here at the Weather Channel. I'm Christina Abernathy along with Nick Walker. We've got a look at what's going on around the country, and there are two areas in particular that we're keeping an eye on. And one of those is in the northeast, where we have an area of low pressure with a front draped back to the south. Well, with this area of low pressure, we've got kind of a mess on our hands because we're seeing rain in some areas, snow in some areas. We've had some icy conditions mixed in, and in some places we're seeing a rain-snow mix. So it's just kind of a mixed bag of precipitation here across the Ohio Valley and into the northeast. And this is going to be a weather maker as we go through tonight and into tomorrow. As it's going to move on eastward, it will bring snow eventually into parts of the northeast with some locally fairly substantial amounts. But it is going to be a quick mover, and by tomorrow afternoon, we expect it to be out to sea. We'll have more on that coming up in just a moment. In the northwest, we've got our own share of active weather here. We're also seeing some rain and some mountain snow. And then into eastern Washington, at times today around Spokane, you've seen sleet and freezing rain. It's now changed over to snow, but you are under a winter weather advisory there. Our temperatures in the northwest in the 40s in Seattle and Portland. In the 20s here through the northern plain states. You're 36 now in Chicago, 46 in Boston. Then to the south, that's where we find some of the milder weather, 75 right now in Phoenix, 64 in Houston, and you're at 74 in Miami, although it has been a little soggy for you. We'll take a closer look at that coming up. First, we want to start out with some of the messy weather we're seeing here across the northeast. It's rain for most of you here in eastern Pennsylvania, back toward Baltimore and D.C. But in some of the higher elevations, we've seen some snow. And then as we head back into Ohio and into Indiana at times, we've seen snow. In some areas, we're seeing a rain-snow mix. And again, in some areas, we've even got some icy conditions mixing in. So definitely be careful if you have to head out this evening. That precipitation extends on back into northern Illinois, where we're just seeing a few scattered snow showers for you. And here to the south, we're seeing a front that's draped across the southeast, and along that front, some light showers from the Carolinas back into the lower Mississippi Valley. Nothing real heavy at this point. Some of the heavier rain has actually been in southern Florida, where you're still seeing some rain here around the Keys. Finally, the northwest, there's rain here, there's snow. More snow is expected for the Sierra. Winter storm warnings in effect. Snowing right now at Tahoe Valley with winds gusting up to 30 miles per hour. So wintry weather definitely in your forecast here in the west as well as in the northeast. And with more on our forecast, here's Nick.
Your national forecast on atmospheres.
Well, we are watching two areas, one in the east, one in the west. Now, in the east, this area of low pressure is bringing kind of a messy mix of weather from the Ohio Valley into the northeast. We're seeing anything from rain to snow to just kind of a rain-snow mix in some areas. So kind of a messy night, a good night just to stay indoors if you can. In the west, we're also seeing a mix of precipitation in some areas. But head into some of the higher elevations, and what you're seeing is snow, lower elevations tending to get rain. Earlier today in eastern Washington, we even saw some freezing rain and sleet. Right now we're seeing temperatures in the 40s in the northwest, 20s in the northern plains, 30s in the Great Lakes region, while southward along the Gulf Coast and in the southwest, temperatures are in the 60s and 70s. Into the northeast, here's the sort of messy weather that we're seeing. A good bit of rain is moving through the northeast and the mid-Atlantic states, but at times we're also seeing snow into Indiana and Ohio. And actually, as this system moves eastward, we'll see some wintry precipitation moving into perhaps parts of New York, Pennsylvania, and into parts of New England too. Back to the west, the western extent of that snow right on into Indiana, and we have seen a few scattered snow showers in Illinois. A front draped across the southeast has produced some showers in the Carolinas, back into the lower Mississippi Valley, where we have also seen some wet weather in southern Florida. And finally, in the west, we've got rain, we've got mountain snow, and also some rather windy conditions for some of you here in California and Nevada. We've seen winds gusting over 30 miles per hour. So look for snow in the northeast. Some of the rain that you're seeing will be changing over to snow. And then in the northwest, mountain snow, lower elevation rain. So the forecast for tomorrow morning shows the snow moving into the northern Rockies, high pressure in control for the Mississippi Valley, but then into the northeast, this area of low pressure moving offshore, and we could see some snow, Pennsylvania, New York, into New England. And during the midday, we could actually still see some of that snow hanging around here in New York and into New England, but the low will move out during the evening hours, but we could see some rain and maybe some snow here in the Cascades of Washington and Oregon, and another system approaching but not making it by early evening tomorrow. Look at most of the precipitation moving out of the northeast as that low deepens and moves out to sea, but still some snow in the northern plains and into the upper Midwest. We'll look for snowfall amounts in the Cascades of Oregon and on into the Sierra of half a foot or more through mid-morning tomorrow, and we could see some locally heavy amounts of rain in the Florida Keys. Our temperatures cool for a lot of us overnight, 40s along the Gulf Coast, teens in the northern plains. And here are our high temperatures on Thursday. In the south, it's going to be fairly mild, 60s and 70s. But in the north, we will look for temperatures to be a little cooler there. We could see some 20s, 30s, even some 40s into the Ohio Valley. Or heavy snowfall. If you're visiting the Bay of Fundy from fall to early spring, make sure you bring your hat and mittens. From October to April, violent storms are possible. They can bring rain, strong winds, and a lot of snow. Most towns and cities surrounding the bay receive over 100 inches per year. In one ferocious storm in 1885, Yarmouth, Nova Scotia was hit with 27 inches of snow in one day. A storm system is on the move from the Midwest into the Northeast, and with it comes rain, sleet, and even some heavy bursts of snow. Our winter weather expert Paul Kosin will join us with more.
That same storm system passed Fargo, North Dakota last night. Today, all you could hear was the scrape of snow shovels and snow plows as people began to dig out for more than 8 inches of snow.
Here's a sneak peek at your Thursday forecast. Another parade of storms moves off the Pacific, ushering in more rain. Wintry weather is on tap for parts of the Northeast, including New York City and Boston, but it will be sunny in most of the South. Good evening and welcome to Weather Center. I'm Christina Abernathy.
And I'm Nick Walker. Thanks for joining us tonight. Your Thursday forecast, just a minute, and snow and rain. That's out west. Here's Christina.
Well, we've seen quite a storm system move into the west, and with that, again, we have seen rain, mountain snow, at times even some icy conditions in the interior northwest. Now we're seeing snow here in parts of Washington and Idaho and Montana, but earlier around Spokane, we did have some reports of some sleet and even some freezing rain out there. But it's wet weather for you now as we head into western Washington and Oregon, northern California, but some snow in the Cascades and the Sierra. Now again, what we're seeing here on the edge of our radar screen is some snow that's falling around Spokane. Winter weather advisories in effect for you, but around Seattle it has been wet weather here. That powerful storm off the Pacific coast spread quite a bit of rain into the Seattle area today. On and off showers were the story most of your day. But you did see a few peaks of sunshine this afternoon, but don't get too used to it. More rain is in the forecast. Just take a look at tomorrow. We'll start the day out with clouds. By noon we will see rain, and it will take you on through the afternoon with highs only getting into the 40s. So we've got our rain here in the northwest, but a little farther south, we're also seeing some snow. As we head over toward Reno, actually getting some rain, but Blue Canyon reporting some snow and some breezy conditions and a bit of wet weather into northwestern California, where winds have been gusting at times 20 miles per hour or more. We saw even stronger winds earlier this afternoon, but still a bit breezy for some of you, especially in some of the higher elevations. Temperatures 44 in Seattle and Portland, 57 in San Francisco, and you're still holding on at 71 in Phoenix, but it's considerably cooler over toward Lander, 16 degrees right now. So rain, mountain snow, maybe a wintry mix of precipitation, Idaho into Washington. We think the heaviest snows are going to be in the Cascades of Oregon, on into the Sierra, and in parts of the Sierra we do have winter storm warnings in effect. Look for half a foot to a foot of snow through mid-morning tomorrow. We'll see rain and again that snow in Washington, Oregon, and on into the northern Rockies. Nick?
Christina?
Well, we are going to see some wet weather and actually some snow in the northeast. The wet weather for a few areas, but as that area of low pressure actually moves off the northeast coast, we expect some snow in parts of New York, maybe Pennsylvania, into southern New England, and that will be affecting central New England on into the midday. While in the west, we've got some rain, some snow, especially in the Cascades of Oregon. But we could also see a few snow showers in the Bitterroots and also in the northern plains. Notice that our low pressure area here in the northeast is moving away, so just some snow showers left over for Maine, but a lot of the east is going to be quiet tomorrow. Well, our snowfall will be heaviest in the mountains of the west with half a foot of snow or more possible. Fairly light snowfall amounts for most of you here in the northeast through tomorrow morning. 1 to 3 inches of snow is just about what you can expect. We will see those temperatures awfully chilly overnight for a lot of us. Those lows are going to be in the single digits in the teens and the upper Midwest and into the Midwest, while we head southward 30s and 40s for your lows. So not quite as bad, but nevertheless a little cool out there with some 50s and 60s actually in southern Florida. That's where things will be mildest. And our high temperatures, well, we are expecting to see a mild day for some of you, but it's only going to be in the extreme southern U.S. because to the north it is going to be a cool day. We'll look for those highs in the northern half of the country, teens, 20s, 30s, and some 40s.
Well, in the meantime, stay with us. We have some travel words for you coming up.
That's right. We'll tell you more about it coming up travel-wise. Stay with us.
Families are getting noiseless nights of sleep. It works instantly to moisten the upper membranes of your palate to allow free and easy breathing.
The Space Shuttle Endeavour is sitting on the launch pad waiting for liftoff. The weather in Cape Canaveral, Florida is beautiful. The skies are clear and the current temperature is 69 degrees. Look at the snow that fell in the Poconos overnight. The snow and rain in the northeast have moved offshore, but this is what parts of the upper plains could be getting. Details are just ahead.
Hello and welcome to Weather Center. I'm Nick Walker along with Christina Abernathy.
Thanks for joining us. We begin this evening in the northeast where things are not quite as active as we saw earlier. We're still seeing a bit of snow out there, some windy conditions and some cool weather, but again, a lot of the snow has ended. Still seeing some snow though in parts of New York State and back into western Pennsylvania, but a lot of the precipitation is offshore now as all of that rain moves out over the Atlantic as our area of low pressure moves away. But again, wrapping around that low, still seeing some snow back here into the northeast where temperatures are in the 30s and 40s right now. You're at 32 in Buffalo, 38 Cleveland, 42 in New York, and 46 right now in Washington, D.C. But we do have some rather blustery conditions with that low. Winds are still gusting 20, 25 miles per hour from Hartford to New York City back down toward D.C. So it's pretty gusty out there, and we do have some gale warnings in effect from Provincetown, Massachusetts to Cape Charles, Virginia. That means winds could be 39 to 54 miles per hour, so obviously not a good time to head out onto the water. Well, the wind is also giving us some low wind chill readings. Right now in Boston, it feels more like 25, 17 in Albany, and 27 in Buffalo. So nothing too bad for you here in the Northeast. You're used to this kind of weather, but again, it is a little brisk out there. Well, we do have some of that snow, as I mentioned. You can see that showing up here across parts of New York, back into Ohio and Pennsylvania. Earlier, though, it was in Massachusetts where we were seeing the snow, around Worcester to be exact. The snow has tapered off this afternoon, and now temperatures are in the mid to upper 30s. You're seeing the snow melt now, so that means your afternoon rush hour should go a bit smoother than this morning, but maybe still some slick roads out there. Well, we do have some snow falling here around Syracuse up toward Watertown. We'll be watching these areas for that wintry weather, maybe over toward Buffalo too. And we've also seen a bit of snow moving here through Ohio and Pennsylvania. So that's what we're going to be watching for. Snow, especially here in northern New York and into northern New England, but also in some of those lake effect favored areas here in Michigan, where 1 to 3 inches of snow are possible. We could also pick up similar amounts here, northern New York and in northern New England, with still a bit of rain falling in southeastern Massachusetts and out onto the Cape, but generally light amounts expected here. Well, that's it for the Northeast. Now the look at the Midwest. Here's Nick. Well, very quiet weather for you in the southeast. High pressure is in control, and the only area where we're really seeing any chance for rain at the moment is in southern Texas. So again, a very quiet time for you here. The high pressure keeping things really nice for a lot of areas across the southeast. Temperatures have been pretty mild, and you've seen a lot of sunshine out there, including around Atlanta, where you saw sunny skies and mild temperatures. Perfect weather to take a stroll down Peachtree Street. Temperatures have been a little bit on the cool side, with a high only in the low 50s, but with all the sunshine it felt a bit warmer, so a real nice day in Atlanta. Temperatures right now in Atlanta: 52 degrees, 51 in Birmingham, 63 in Dallas, and 62 in New Orleans. Brownsville at 73, and we have seen a few scattered showers around, but that's about it as far as precipitation across the southeast. We could see some wet weather here in southern Texas for tomorrow morning, but most of the south expected to be pretty quiet. Well, now with a look at the rest of our forecast, here's Nick.
Cool and windy in the northern sections. A little bit cooler in some areas of the south, too, particularly around Texas.
And you'll want to stay with us because we will have more on that forecast coming up. Well, let's take a look now at our weekly planner, and the jet stream starts us off, and that dip in the jet stream here in the east will keep things a little on the cool side and a little unsettled for some of you. You've had some snow in the northeast today, still seeing a bit of that, and some windy conditions for you too. But notice we've got this big ridge across the western U.S., and that's going to hang around at least until Monday. So let's take a look at what all of that means for your weather, starting out with your forecast for tomorrow, where we're actually going to see things quieting down for a lot of you in the northeast, at least for the moment, because that area of low pressure that's giving you the windy conditions and some of the snow is going to be moving away. But we do see this next system moving through that will bring snow into the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. So from Des Moines to Chicago to Cincinnati to Pittsburgh, we will have the chance for some snow, and we may even see a little heavier snow here in parts of Missouri. So we'll be watching that very carefully in that swath of snow, again, all the way into West Virginia and Pennsylvania. Warm enough southward into Texas so that your precipitation will be falling as rain, and we go on westward in what we're seeing. Fog once again in the valleys here in California. We will continue to see that, as well as on into Southern California. Look out around LA. You had very persistent fog earlier today, and we see no reason why you shouldn't see a similar situation tomorrow. Showers in the northwest with mountain snow that will be winding down just a bit for your Saturday. We'll look for some showers across Texas and some snow showers in the northeast for your Saturday. Maybe a bit of wintry weather in the southern Appalachians on Sunday, with rain off to the south and to the east and windy conditions in northern Florida, and that will move off the east coast for your Monday, but still affecting you here in eastern North Carolina and southeastern Virginia. By Tuesday, snow showers for you here across the Great Lakes region into the Ohio Valley. We may see more of a rain-snow mix there, and scattered showers in Southern California that may become more widespread on into your Wednesday, with snow for the Sierra and more rain with mountain snow for you in the west on Thursday. Well, we will see some cool weather in the northern half of the country Friday, milder to the south. And we will see that cool air moving a little farther southward here into Texas for your Saturday, but warming up once again on Sunday back into the 50s and 60s for a lot of you, and even warmer still for Monday. But again, it is a little cool in the northern tier states, and maybe even chillier for you for Tuesday. Our low temperatures awfully cold in the west and in the northeast, with 30s actually all the way down to the Gulf Coast. and we're not going to see a big change in that on into Saturday or your Sunday. A lot of 20s out there for lows on Sunday, so some cold weather will be around for you. Monday, not quite as cold, but again, you'll still need the extra blanket because it will be chilly nevertheless. Well, that's it for your weekly planner, but you'll want to stay tuned because coming up next, we'll take a look at your local forecast. Don't go away.
For that, here's Christina.
And we'll take a look, first of all, at the pain index, which is going to be worse here across the northern states, a bit above normal for you here, unfortunately. And the respiratory index, a few pockets here in the northern states and in Texas where it could be above normal for you. And the wind chill, it's going to feel awfully cold out there, especially in the northern half of the country. And in the upper Midwest, 0 to 20 below is what it's going to feel like for you. So the forecast calls for some snow to continue in the northeast, snow to continue in the northern plains, pretty quiet in most of the west, but we will look for this system to move south and eastward, spreading snow into the Midwest, the Great Lakes. So we could see snow around Des Moines, over towards Chicago, maybe Indianapolis. And we'll look for really tonight the heaviest snow to be here in the Dakotas into Minnesota. At least through midnight, we'll see that snow again eventually is spreading south and east, but 3 to 6 inches here through parts of the eastern South Dakota. Lighter amounts as we go into the northeast. As far as those low temperatures, get ready for a cold night in the interior west, especially in the higher elevations down into the single digits. And we'll also look for cool weather down to the Gulf Coast. We'll have some 30s here. Now stay tuned because Nick takes a look at the difference between allergies and a cold. Stay with us. The Space Shuttle Endeavour is sitting on the launch pad for tonight's liftoff. The launch is scheduled for 10:06. Skies will be clear with minimal winds and temperatures will be in the mid to low 60s. The Weather Channel will have live coverage of tonight's launch.
But look at the snow that fell in the Poconos overnight. The snow and the rain in the northeast has moved offshore, most of it anyway, but this is what parts of the upper plains could be getting. Details just ahead. Hi and welcome to Weather Center, sponsored by American Power Conversion. I'm Nick Walker, along with Christina Abernathy.
Thanks for joining us. We begin this evening in the northeast, where you've had a bit of a wintry day today. We had snow earlier in parts of southern New England, and we're actually still seeing some snow around this area of low pressure in New York and Pennsylvania, and we're also seeing a bit of snow into Michigan too. But you can see that a lot of the precipitation has actually moved offshore as that area of low pressure is expected to continue moving away from the northeast, but still producing some windy conditions and still getting a bit of that snow. Our temperatures are a little on the cool side, but nothing unbearable for this part of the world. 31 in Buffalo, 36 in Albany, 40 in Boston, and 44 right now in Washington, D.C. But we are seeing a little bit of windy weather. The winds have been gusting 20 and 25 miles per hour from Hartford to New York City, back down toward Philly and D.C. So it's a little brisk out there, and we're also seeing even stronger winds as we head toward the coastal areas. Gale warnings are in effect from Provincetown, Massachusetts, southward to Cape Charles, Virginia. Winds of 39 to 54 miles per hour possible for you. So obviously not a good time to head out to the water. Well, the winds are also making it feel even colder out there than the actual temperature indicates. Those wind chills, while not as bad as they could be, it still makes it feel a little bit chilly out there. 27 Buffalo, 25 Boston, 17 in Albany. Well, we are still seeing some snow, as I mentioned, here in New York, northern New England, back into parts of Michigan and Ohio. But earlier it was southern New England where we saw the snow around Worcester, Massachusetts this morning. The snow has tapered off this afternoon, and now temperatures are in the mid to upper 30s. You're seeing the snow melt, so that means your afternoon rush hour should not be quite as bad weather-wise as perhaps the drive into work was this morning. Well, again, we are seeing a little bit of snow out there around Syracuse, up towards Saranac Lake and Watertown. You can see not terribly widespread, but again, we will be picking up a little bit of snow here, generally less than 3 inches as we go through the evening hours. And we're also seeing some of that into Ohio and into Michigan, where we could pick up in some areas, again, a couple of inches of snow. We'll be looking at those lake effect favored areas, but also looking here into northern New York and northern New England. 1 to 3 inches of snow could fall in any of these areas. Well, that's it for the Northeast. Now, Nick takes a look a little farther west.
Here's Christina.
Well, you are seeing a lot of sunshine across the southeast. A very pleasant day out there. We've got high pressure in control and no one seeing much rain. The only area where we could see a bit of wet weather is in southern Texas. The rest of the south, though, nice and quiet, including around Atlanta, where you saw sunny conditions and just a real nice day out there in Atlanta. Perfect weather to take a stroll down Peachtree Street. Temperatures are a little bit cool with a high only in the low 50s, but with all the sunshine, it felt a bit warmer. And for this time of year, those temperatures really aren't all that bad. Our temperature right now in Atlanta, 50 degrees, 51 in Birmingham, 62 in Dallas, and you're at 75 right now in Miami. Brownsville, 76, and we do see a little bit of wet weather out there, and you could actually expect to see more wet weather in southern Texas in your forecast, so look out for that. Some scattered showers as you make your way into work tomorrow morning, but most of the rest of the south pretty quiet. Now, with more on our forecast, here's Nick.
And hey,
Well, there are a few areas where weather could impact your travel tonight or tomorrow.
that's right. We'll pinpoint where those are coming up on TravelWise. Stay right here.
Well, we're seeing snow falling here in the northern plains and the upper Midwest. Also a bit of snow for you in the northeast. And this snow that we're seeing here in the northern plains, we're going to see this system moving south and eastward, and that's eventually going to spread some snow into parts of Illinois, Indiana, and Missouri. So we'll keep a close eye on that. It is our travel trouble spot because of the wintry weather here. Be careful along I-94, I-35. You can encounter some wintry weather here, but we're also watching some lake effect favored areas here off Lake Superior, Lake Michigan. We could see some snow for you, so we'll definitely want to watch out for that. We're also expecting snow in northern New York, northern New England, and in some of the higher elevations in the west, in the Colorado Rockies, into the Bitterroots, and into the Cascades of Washington and northern Oregon. But western Washington, northwestern Oregon, your precipitation will tend to fall as rain instead of snow. Well, foggy travel, we saw that earlier in California, not quite as widespread now, but watch out tomorrow because once again in LA you'll have foggy conditions to start the day. And windy weather, that's what you're seeing here through the central states with that system that's producing the snow, also giving you some windy conditions. Wind gusts over 50 miles per hour are possible here. That's enough to cause some problems. Also, an area of low pressure off the northeast coast is giving you some windy weather from southern New England back into North Carolina, and from some parts of Massachusetts into Virginia. We do have some gale warnings in effect for the coastal areas there, so obviously not a good time to be out on the water. Well, now a quick look at international weather, and we are expecting some rain in the forecast if you're headed to London or Paris or Frankfurt tomorrow. You'll want to keep the umbrella with you because we are expecting some wet weather and temperatures in the 50s. Madrid could also see some showers at 57, 59 in Rome, Athens 62 with a good bit of sunshine, weather looking nice there, but Moscow 30 degrees and snow is in the forecast. Into Melbourne, sunny as well as in Perth, temperatures in the 80s there, but a scorcher in Alice Springs 104 and a good bit of cloud cover. And finally, Bogota 66, Santiago 82, Buenos Aires 84. Well, that's it for international weather and travel weather, but keep in mind that you can always find additional information online at weather.com or America Online, keyword weather. Well, it's time now for the Weekend Outlook, which is sponsored by Walmart. And we'll start you out with the Army-Navy game Saturday in Baltimore. A high of 39 degrees. Bundle up if you're headed out to the game, but looks like no precipitation in the forecast, just a few clouds around. Very nice weather there. The Christmas Festival will look for Saturday, a high of 49 degrees with just some partly cloudy skies. Next, Christmas in the Villages, Van Buren County, Iowa, Sunday, a high of 41, and you too should see a good bit of sunshine. And finally, the Dickens Country Christmas in Cambridge, Wisconsin, 38 degrees and just partly cloudy skies for you. So a lot of cool weather out there Saturday, except in Southern California and Southern Florida, where your highs getting all the way up into the 70s. But we will have a bit of wet weather in the form of a few rain showers in southern Texas. We could see some snow showers here around Buffalo or Pittsburgh, over towards Cincinnati, maybe St. Louis. And that will tend to wind down for your Sunday, but we could still see some snow here in the southern Appalachians with some rain showers southward and more cool weather on tap for your Sunday. Here's a quick look at what's going on out there right now. Stay tuned for more on this coming up next on Storm Watch. The Space Shuttle Endeavour is waiting and ready for liftoff. Tonight's launch is scheduled for 10:06. Skies will be clear with minimal winds and temperatures will be in the mid to low 60s. The Weather Channel will have live coverage of tonight's launch.
Take a look at the snow that fell in the Poconos overnight. Snow and rain in the northeast has moved offshore, but there's still a little bit left behind. But this is what some parts of the plains could be getting. Details just ahead. Hi and welcome to Weather Center. I'm Nick Walker along with Christina Abernathy.
Thanks for joining us. We began this evening in the Northeast where we've had some snow today in parts of New York and parts of New England. We've seen some of that, as well as a little bit of rain mixed in for some areas. Our temperatures are a bit on the cool side, and we've got some rather windy conditions all associated with this area of low pressure. But you can see that the bulk of the rain has moved away, and we are seeing the snow chances diminishing here too, although still some of that is hanging on. Temperatures in the 30s now in Albany, Pittsburgh, and Buffalo, 40s from Boston to New York. Well, one look at the radar shows some very quiet weather out there for most of us. Not everyone, but up and down the East Coast, most of the southern states except for southern Texas, and most of the West too, just seeing very quiet weather as far as any precipitation is concerned. One notable exception is here through the Great Lakes where we are seeing some snow. For the most part, it is light snow, but you may see an increase in the snow, especially in lake effect favored areas as a cold front sweeps through. Watch out eventually into Michigan, and then ultimately we'll see the snow into Ohio and Pennsylvania into New York in our forecast. But snow certainly falling here in northern Wisconsin, in the UP of Michigan, into lower Michigan too. We have some winter weather advisories, even some winter storm warnings out around Sault Ste. Marie. So snow, blowing snow, reduced visibilities. We've got some very blustery winds here. Winds have been gusting 30, 40 miles per hour in the northern plains and the upper Midwest. Something else we're watching is fog in California, western Texas, western Idaho. Keep that in mind if you're traveling. And once again, very windy conditions here, the northern plains into the Great Lakes. Low wind chill readings and blowing snow are going to be a big concern here. Well, a quick look at international weather. Rain in the forecast in London. Clouds in Paris tomorrow at 54. We'll look for 97 in Alice Springs, and Bogota showers at 64 degrees on Tuesday. Well, it's time now for the Weekend Outlook, which is sponsored by Minute Maid. And the forecast for Saturday, cold weather in the northern half of the country, especially the northern plains, single digits and teens for your high temperatures. Quite a contrast to those 80s that you'll be feeling in southern Florida, around Miami and down toward the Keys. Temperatures getting into the 80s. Very nice. But we will be seeing some wintry precipitation in the southern Appalachians, maybe a wintry mix here. And then the next storm system gets going in the west. It could be quite a snowmaker in the northern plains back to the Four Corners. Still a little bit of a wintry mix here in the Carolinas with temperatures, well, fairly mild for a lot of you along the Gulf Coast, but again, we are looking for some very chilly conditions in the northern plains, single digits below zero and into the teens here across the upper Midwest. Here's a look at your current weather. Stay tuned for more of this coming up next on Storm Watch.
Clear skies cover much of the nation today. We have a few flurries in upper Michigan, and there are some scattered showers in South Texas. But many of us experiencing a sunny, though cold day. Hi and welcome to Weather Center. I'm Nick Walker along with Christina Abernathy.
Thanks for joining us. Your Tuesday forecast is just ahead, but we begin in the Midwest where we are seeing some cold air that's moving in, an Arctic air mass headed your way, and also seeing some snow with more in the forecast. We're seeing light snow right now around Alpena and Traverse City and on southward into even into northern Indiana, seeing some snow, and even back into Minnesota seeing some of that snow too. But it's this front right in here that is the dividing line between some cold air and some very cold air to the north. I mean, you're in the 30s here south of the front, but to the north the single digits, and we're actually looking for some very cold weather to move southward and eastward as that front sweeps on through this evening. Again, right now we are seeing some snow. We're seeing some very windy conditions too. Winds have been gusting 30, 40 miles per hour. Blowing snow is a concern, and eventually lake effect snow will be more of a concern too. Scattered snow showers for you in lower Michigan, in central upper Michigan, back into Minnesota, and earlier we even saw some snow flurries around Des Moines. That has since ended. But we, again, are seeing some snow now in upper Michigan, even some winter storm warnings in effect around Sault Ste. Marie. Winter weather advisories that include Alpena and Traverse City. So light snow now, but we do expect more wintry weather headed your way. And again, also some really plummeting temperatures out there. It's going to be a cold night and a cold day tomorrow. The snow extends as far south as around Elkhart. We're also seeing snow in Kalamazoo and Muskegon, and we'll look for some of that around Detroit. And we do think that the heaviest amounts of snow are going to be in upper Michigan, northern lower Michigan, where 3 to 6 inches of snow are possible here, 1 to 3 elsewhere. And that's just through midnight tonight. As we see that front moving through, we'll see those cold winds blowing over the warmer lake waters, and that will set the stage for lake effect snow, not only in Michigan, but eventually into Ohio and into New York. Here's some of that cold air that I'm talking about. Behind that front, you can see draped right in this area. In Fargo, in International Falls, you're in the single digits right now. It is a little warmer to the south. Minneapolis at 29. You're at 36 in Chicago and Des Moines. So it's still cool for you, and you can bet it's going to get even colder. As a matter of fact, we could see temperatures dropping down to 0 in Minneapolis, and you may not get out of the teens for high temperatures tomorrow. On top of the cold weather, though, we're also seeing very blustery conditions. Winds are still gusting 20 and 30 miles per hour from the Dakotas and Minnesota into Iowa, and that's making it feel even colder. Our wind chills are low. 27 below is what it feels like out there right now in Fargo, 20 below in Bismarck, so dangerously low wind chill readings, and unfortunately it's not going to get any better. 3 is what it feels like in Minneapolis, 17 for you in Chicago. So another chilly day on tap tomorrow. It's going to be even colder for you as that cold front sweeps on southward. By tomorrow morning, we will see that lake effect snow setting up in Michigan, and eventually we'll look for that a little farther east too. Well, that's it for the Midwest and the Great Lakes. Now, Nick has a look to the east.
Yes, Christina?
Well, we're seeing some fairly quiet weather in the west, although you do see a few clouds around. Really, the biggest problem has not been precipitation, it's been fog. We see that developing, and it affects you during the morning hours, and for a lot of you it clears up during the afternoon, although around Sacramento, actually still getting some reports of fog there now. So some of the valleys here, you definitely want to watch out for the foggy conditions here in the west. Our temperatures right now, well, you're around 50 in Seattle, but it's much colder in the interior west, where Spokane at 31, 28 in Cut Bank, 39 in Denver, but nice and mild in the southwest, 75 in Phoenix, 74 in San Diego and Los Angeles. Well, no precipitation in your forecast, but tomorrow, what can we expect tomorrow morning? An area of low pressure developing here across Montana. With that, we could see some wintry weather, a bit of snow for you, but really for most of the west, it's going to be very quiet, although we do expect fog to develop once again. Sacramento, San Francisco, back down to LA. Now, with more on our forecast, here's Nick.
We'll keep amounts as you move toward the east. Christina?
Well, if you have any questions about the weather this evening, log on to weather.com. I will be online to answer your weather questions. The chat begins at 6:30 Eastern Time. Once again, log on to weather.com for answers to your weather-related questions this evening.
Be there. Well, stay with us. We'll have your weekly planner just ahead.
Don't go away. Well, it's time now for the weekly planner, and we're going to be watching some interesting weather developing for some of us. We've got some wintry weather, of course, with this deep trough here across the Great Lakes region. You're going to see some very cold air already moving into the northern plains, and it's going to spread eastward. That will produce some snow for you across the Great Lakes. Then we're going to watch a series of systems that will also be affecting parts of the central and eastern U.S. with some wintry weather. Let's take a look at where all of those are going to be as we go through the next several days. Well, Tuesday's weather, we've got the cold front, which is right now draped here across the northern plains and the upper Midwest. It's expected to move south and eastward and bring in some Arctic air. It is going to be awfully cold. Already seeing temperatures only in the single digits in the northern plains right now. Our wind chills in the Dakotas, in some areas 20 degrees below 0 is what it feels like out there with the wind. wind. Now, we're also seeing some snow from Minnesota over into Michigan, and we even have in parts of Michigan some winter storm advisories and winter storm warnings in effect. So we do have some wintry weather that's in your forecast, and we actually expect more on Tuesday. As those cold winds blow over those warmer lake waters, lake effect snow is set up in the forecast for tomorrow. Snow and wind, the UP of Michigan, western lower Michigan, and on into Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York. And it's also going to be windy, so blowing snow is a concern too. In the west, it's fog, especially during the morning hours from the interior northwest back into California. We could see more fog in the west on Wednesday, a few snow showers lingering here in the Great Lakes region, and then a system that's moving out of the Rockies across the south central U.S. will mean rain, snow, and in between a wintry mix of precipitation. But we do think that's going to sort of fizzle out as we go into your Thursday, as we'll see a few showers around Houston and New Orleans, but no more wintry weather in the forecast. We will see wintry weather, though, here to the north from really Minnesota over into northern New York and northern New England. We could see some light snow and some snow showers. And then things get a little more interesting on Friday. As a system moves out of the Rockies, moves eastward, we could see anything from rain to snow to a wintry mix. As we've got the cold air in place, that moisture overruns the colder air at the surface, and we could see maybe some freezing precipitation for some of you. To the south, that will be warm enough so that you should see all rain, and then to the north, cold enough that you should see all snow from Chicago back into the panhandle of Texas. Then all of that moves eastward, and into the southern Appalachians, we could actually see wintry weather. Things get interesting in the west on Saturday, too, because we may see an even more powerful storm system developing here on Saturday with snow and with wind that will be moving eastward on Sunday, snowy from the upper Midwest into the Four Corners region, and all of that pressing on eastward for your Monday. Remember that this is a forecast pretty far out in advance, but it's definitely something we're watching very closely, and you will want to keep checking back in with the Weather Channel as we fine-tune that forecast for you. Well, our temperatures, of course, very cold in the upper Midwest on Tuesday. Single digits, teens for highs. Minneapolis, you may only get into the teens for highs tomorrow. A little milder in the south. Temperatures still chilly in the Great Lakes into the northeast for your Wednesday. Not quite as cold for Thursday. And on Friday, that next blast of cold air moves into the northern plains, and it's going to be around on Saturday, too. Single digits, teens, and 20s. Well, the only really warm weather we can find southern Florida in the 70s and 80s. Look at these low temperatures in the northern plains, dropping into the single digits and teens below zero. So definitely some cold weather is headed your way, and it's not looking much better over the next several days. Still awfully chilly out there. Stay tuned. We'll have more next on your local forecast.
Let's check with Christina.
Well, this evening's forecast calls for more snow and more very cold weather across the north central U.S. and into the Great Lakes region. Some windy conditions, snow, and an Arctic air mass is moving in. Temperatures are really going to plummet, and it's going to be a cold day tomorrow, too. High pressure to the south, not much going on for you aside from a few showers in southern Texas and some fog in your forecast in the west. Tomorrow morning, our front moves southward and eastward. Behind that, those very cold winds blowing over the warmer lake waters, lake effect snow from the UP of Michigan into western lower Michigan. Eventually, we'll see that into New York and into Pennsylvania and Ohio in those lake effect favored areas in particular. And once again, it's going to be very cold. Minneapolis, you may not get out of the teens tomorrow. So snowfall this evening, heaviest here through Michigan. In some areas, 3 to 6 inches of snow possible. Very cold weather out there, including your lows. Well, stay tuned. Nick has some tips on flooding coming up next. Stay with us.
The lake effect snow machine is cranking up in the Great Lakes region again, and that could mean some heavy snow for parts of the Great Lakes and New York State tomorrow. We'll have details ahead.
A very foggy day today in Sacramento and the central California valleys. How long will this thick fog hang around? We'll find out coming up next.
Here's a quick look at Tuesday's forecast. Look for cold conditions over much of the country with lake effect snow in the Great Lakes, and look for light snow showers in the west central plains with fog in parts of the west. Good evening and welcome to this edition of Weather Center, sponsored by Campbell's. I'm Nick Walker.
And I'm Christina Abernathy. Thanks for joining us. First, let's take a closer look at the Midwest and the possible snow heading through the Great Lakes region. This is what we're seeing right now. We do have some snow that's falling in Michigan and into Ohio. We are also seeing a cold front that's draped right across the northern plains into the upper Midwest. Behind this front, we have some very cold air that's in place. An Arctic air mass is moving into the north central states, and eventually this front will sweep through the Great Lakes region. We'll look for more lake effect snow, and what we've also got on our hands is some rather windy weather, and with the cold temperatures, the wind is making it feel even colder. So it's kind of a rough night out there in the upper Midwest tonight and through the Great Lakes. We're seeing snow in Minnesota, in upper Michigan, and also in lower Michigan, especially northern and western lower Michigan. That's where most of the snow is falling, and for the most part it is light, although we do expect that in those lake effect favored areas we could see some locally heavier snow amounts. Snowing in Marquette, Alpena, over toward Traverse City, and it extends on southward to around Cleveland. Some snow showers moving through. Look out Kalamazoo and Muskegon, and maybe even Detroit picking up a little bit of snow. We do think that the heavier amounts in the lake effect favored areas where we could pick up 3 to 6 inches of snow here, and eventually that's going to be affecting you in the northeast too. Our temperatures. It's awfully cold out there behind that front. You're in the single digits right now in International Falls, in Fargo, in Bismarck, 21 right now in Minneapolis. So you can really see pretty clearly where the front is, a pretty sharp dividing line, although even south of the front, temperatures are a little on the cool side. You're at 35 in Chicago with winds gusting to 23 miles per hour. We've got winds gusting almost 40 miles per hour here in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and that's giving us some very low wind chill readings. We're seeing wind chills right now, 8 below in Minneapolis, 32 below in International Falls, so dangerously low wind chill readings. As I mentioned, we're also going to be seeing that snow, the front sweeping on through. Behind that, cold winds off of the warmer lake waters will result in lake effect snow. Let's take a closer look at exactly who's going to be getting the best wind direction for the best lake effect snow. And for Monday, or late today actually, it's going to be Marquette. But as that front sweeps through and the wind shifts, we will see Cleveland. The best chance for snow for you would be a westerly wind. Watertown, more of a wind out of the southwest. Same goes for you in Buffalo. So again, in some of these areas, we will see some wintry weather out there. Well, that's it for the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes. Now, Nick has a look to the east. But we are seeing some fog in the west. What we are seeing is the setup that during the nighttime and the early morning hours, we do see fog developing here, ground fog in the Central Valley of California. Surface high, an area of low pressure in a favorable position for that fog to develop. We've got the moisture, we've got light winds, and once again, we are expecting, as we saw today, fog in the Sacramento and San Joaquin valleys, and we see no reason why we won't have more of that in the forecast because overall conditions just aren't expected to change much. You can see the fog here, and again, the pattern's not going to change, so fog is in the forecast here for the rest of the week at least. Here's what we're seeing in the west right now. Look for the fog to develop tonight. We've got some clouds around, and a few areas of fog have actually developed here in parts of Oregon and parts of Idaho, but we will look for that here again in the Sacramento and San Joaquin valleys tonight and into tomorrow morning. So heading out to work tomorrow morning around Sacramento, for example, you will want to allow for those reduced visibilities. It could be a problem once again. Unfortunately, you'll need to take it a little extra slow out there. Well, temperature is 47 in Seattle, 45 in Portland. It is definitely chilly, though, back toward Billings and Glasgow. You're at 14 there, 27 in Billings, 30 now in Denver. Nice and mild, though, around Phoenix, 74 degrees right now for you. Well, we're not expecting much precipitation in the west, maybe a little bit of snow here, Idaho, Montana, into Wyoming, but not more than 3 inches of snow will be falling here. And we will look for some snow in the forecast tomorrow morning in Montana, but most of the west is expected to be very, very quiet. Nick?
Oregon and Idaho.
Well, if you have travel plans tonight or tomorrow, be sure to stay tuned.
TravelWise is coming up next. We'll pinpoint the trouble spots.
Well, It's time now for the weekly planner, and we've got some interesting weather headed your way this week. We've got, of course, the front sweeping through the Great Lakes region right now. With that, some very cold air is moving in, and also some lake effect snow is in the forecast for a lot of you. What we're also going to be watching is some systems coming out of the west moving eastward, and that's going to mean some wintry weather, maybe even into parts of the southern states. We could see some of that wintry weather. And then another big system is going to develop here in the west toward the end of our forecast, and that could mean a lot of wintry weather for parts of the central U.S. We'll have all the details starting out with your forecast for tomorrow. And of course, we're watching our front right now, which is draped right across the upper Midwest and the northern plains. Behind that, we're already seeing temperatures that are only in the single digits. We've got wind chills right now in the northern plains, 20 and 30 below. So it's pretty brutal out there. And what we're going to see is that cold air is going to move southward and eastward as that front sweeps on through the lakes region. And what we're also going to see is that the winds behind that front, those very cold winds, are going to be blowing over the warmer lake waters. That sets the stage for lake effect snow here, especially in the UP of Michigan, western lower Michigan, from Ohio and Pennsylvania on into New York State. Not only will you see snow, it's also going to be very windy. Blowing snow may be a concern, as well as low wind chill readings. So watch out. It's going to be cold, and with the wind, it's going to feel even colder tomorrow. Also looking for some snow showers here across parts of Wyoming into South Dakota and Nebraska. And once again tomorrow morning, you can expect fog here in the Sacramento and San Joaquin valleys. We see no reason for that to change for perhaps the next several days. It could still be foggy out there. By Wednesday, it's still some areas of fog, of course, in the west. Our system moving out of the Rockies across the south central U.S. We're going to see some wet weather, but to the north where it's colder, we'll see some snow. And as that moisture overrides that colder air that's in place, in between, we're going to see a wintry mix of precipitation. Notice that things quiet a bit for you in the northeast, just some snow showers off the lakes. We may see another system bringing more snow, though, by Thursday. Notice that our southern system begins to dampen out just a bit, just a few showers from Houston over toward perhaps New Orleans. It could be a little soggy for you, but really not a lot going on here across the southern states. Then things get interesting again for Friday as another system moves out of the Rockies into the central states. To the south, it's rain. To the north, a band of snow, a narrow band of snow from maybe Chicago back down toward Kansas City and into the panhandle of Texas. In between the rain and the snow, it's that wintry mix. We could have some icy precipitation mixing in from northern Indiana and Ohio back through Missouri and Kansas into Texas, again the southern panhandle of Texas. So things could get rather interesting here Friday and on into Saturday. All that wintry weather moves into the southeast, so the southern Appalachians could get the wintry mix. Then things get going once again in the west as quite a storm system may be developing, and it could actually be a big snow producer for Sunday. Snow and wind from the northern plains to the Four Corners. So this is something we're watching very closely, and keep in mind that this is a forecast that's pretty far in advance, but we want to keep in mind that you need to keep checking back in with the Weather Channel. We'll fine-tune this forecast and give you our best idea of what's expected with this storm system as it continues to develop. Well, our temperatures very cold behind this front in the upper Midwest and the northern plains on Tuesday. Single digits and teens for your high temperatures. Minneapolis, St. Paul, Des Moines, you may not get out of the teens for highs on Tuesday. And it's going to be cold in the northeast on Wednesday with 20s for highs for a lot of you. Mildest right along the Gulf Coast states and into the southwest, but still pretty chilly in the northern half of the country for Thursday and on into Friday. Another little blast of cold air moves in, and it sticks around for your Saturday. Now, our low temperatures, notice how cold it's going to get in the upper Midwest. Single digits and teens below zero. Dangerously low temperatures, dangerously low wind chill readings. Definitely bundle up because it is going to be very, very cold. Similar situation on your Wednesday. Not quite as cold for Thursday. You may get above zero for those low temperatures, but a lot of us are going to be dealing with some very chilly weather over the next several days. And stay tuned. We'll have more coming up next on Weather Center.
The lake effect snow machine is cranking up again in the Great Lakes region, and that could mean heavy snow for parts of the Great Lakes and New York State tomorrow. Details ahead.
A very foggy day today in Sacramento and the Central California Valley. How long will this thick fog hang around? We'll find out coming up next.
Here's a quick look at Tuesday's forecast. Look for cold conditions over much of the country with that lake effect snow in the Great Lakes, and look for light snow showers in the west central plains with fog in parts of the west. Good evening and welcome to this edition of Weather Center, sponsored by the U.S. Postal Service. I'm Nick Walker.
And I'm Christina Abernathy. Thanks for joining us. Well, first, let's take a closer look at the Midwest and the possible snow heading your way. It's already snowing for some of you in Michigan, but we are looking for snow not only in Michigan, but also eventually into Pennsylvania and New York. We're expecting lake effect snow. We have a cold front that's ushering in some Arctic air already moving into the northern plains in the upper Midwest. Well, as this front sweeps through the Great Lakes region, those cold winds over the warmer lake waters will set the stage for lake effect snow. As I mentioned, we're already seeing some of the snowy, windy conditions here through the northern plains, the upper Midwest, and the snow falling especially here in upper Michigan and northern and western lower Michigan. We even have some winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings in effect. Sault Ste. Marie under a winter storm warning. Winter weather advisories for Traverse City and Alpena. We'll look for snow here around Marquette, here through northern lower Michigan, but also as we go to the south, we've even seen some snow around Fort Wayne, and we've also seen snow back into Minnesota around Duluth at times, seeing some wintry weather. So we will look for the favored areas, the lake effect favored areas, to pick up the heaviest snow, and once again that will be spreading on eastward. As will the cold weather. The temperatures right now really plummeting behind that front. You're at 2 in Fargo and International Falls. Temperatures dropping down now into the teens in Minneapolis at 18, still holding in the 30s in Kansas City and Chicago, but you too can expect those temperatures to drop. And watch out, Minneapolis. Your high temperature tomorrow expected to be 9 degrees. And with winds out of the northwest at 10 miles per hour, it's going to feel even colder. Now you'll have sunshine, but it is going to be brutally cold. Bundle up out there. So again, we've got some cool weather for you, some windy conditions right now. In Minneapolis, your winds are gusting to 30 miles per hour. So that's making it feel very cold. Right now, your wind chill 8 below. And it's even colder to the north. It feels even worse. In International Falls, your wind chill right now 32 below. Dangerously low wind chill readings, and more on tap for tomorrow. And more snow on tap for tomorrow. The cold front should move right on through the Great Lakes region, and more snow is in your forecast. Now with a look a little farther east, here's Nick.
And let's check in with Christina.
Well, we're not seeing a lot of precipitation in the west, but one thing that we have been dealing with is fog, especially in the Central Valley of California. Already seeing that developing once again. Some fog in the interior sections of the Northwest too. One area in California that's been dealing with the foggy conditions, Sacramento, and we think you will have more fog in your forecast for tomorrow, especially to start out the day. Now by the afternoon things will tend to clear up a bit, but then the fog developing once again late afternoon, calm winds, and temperatures only getting up to around 52 degrees for the afternoon. Well, we have our temperatures right now around 57 in San Francisco, 64 in San Diego, 44 in Seattle, but definitely chilly around Cut Bank. 19 your temperature right now. We could see some snow in Montana and Idaho, but not more than 3 inches of snow is expected, and we'll look for that Tuesday morning. Snow in Montana and maybe into Idaho. Most of the rest of the west pretty quiet. Nick?
Christina?
Those of you traveling to and from Fresno, California can expect weather delays. Fog forced the airport to close down this weekend. Although the airport is now open, the canceled flights have caused more delays today. Those of you traveling on the roads also want to be extra careful. California Highway Patrol officers are ready to pace cars when visibility is less than 500 feet. Now here's a look at how you can stay safe on the road. Drive slowly, keep your low beams on, and leave plenty of space between your car and the car ahead of you.
Well, speaking of traveling, if you have travel plans tonight or tomorrow, be sure and stay tuned.
Travel Wise is coming up next. Stay with us. time now to update this travel conditions, and we have some wintry weather moving through the Great Lakes. It's wintry, it's cold, and it's also pretty windy, so a lot going on for you. And this is our travel trouble spot because we are looking for lake effect snow in Michigan, in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York. It's going to be a wintry time and very cold air moving in, and also with the system of cold front that's moving through, it's going to be very windy. So blowing snow is a concern, reduced visibilities as a result of that blowing snow, and also some dangerously low wind chill readings. Also expect some snow perhaps into the Bitterroots, but really not a lot of precipitation elsewhere across the country. A few showers, southern Florida and into southern Texas. What is a big concern for some of you, especially in the Central Valley of California, is fog. It's been developing pretty much every night for the last few nights. We expect once again tonight that we'll see fog developing. That includes you around Sacramento, around Fresno. It's going to be foggy, reduced visibilities. Travel in these areas could be a bit of a problem. Just be ready for that tonight or tomorrow morning as you head out for work. Also, the chance for some fog in eastern Tennessee. Very blustery in the upper Midwest to the Great Lakes region. Winds gusting over 30 miles per hour, and that's giving you, as I mentioned, low wind chill readings. Some areas in the northern plains are actually seeing wind chills of 20 and 30 below, so that's dangerously low. Snow here along I-90 or I-80. We'll look for more snow. Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Alpena, maybe even a few snowflakes in Detroit. And your temperature, Philly tomorrow morning, 27, 30 in New York. Plenty of sunshine, but awfully cold. Very quiet for most of the south. We'll look for 28 tomorrow morning in Atlanta, 33 in Dallas. In the Midwest, this is where we're seeing the snowy and windy conditions. Minneapolis, 0 for you tomorrow morning, 9 below in Fargo. Bitterly cold. Finally, in the west, quiet except for some snow and some fog. We'll look for more fog, LA, San Francisco, Sacramento, and up toward Boise. And stay tuned. Coming up, we'll take a look at Storm Watch. Don't go away.
The lake effect snow machine getting going in the Great Lakes region again, and that could mean some heavy snow for you all the way into New York State, western Pennsylvania tomorrow. We'll have details ahead.
A very foggy day today in Sacramento and the Central California Valley. How long will this thick fog hang around? We'll find out coming up next.
And here's a quick look at Tuesday's forecast. Look for cold conditions over much of the country with that lake effect snow throughout the lakes. Look for light snow showers in the west central plains with fog in parts of the west again. Good evening. Welcome to this edition of Weather Center, sponsored by Campbell's. I'm Nick Walker.
And I'm Christina Abernathy. Thanks for joining us. Well, let's take a closer look at what's going on in the Midwest and the Great Lakes. We've got some snow that's going to be falling, already affecting you in parts of Michigan and Ohio. We'll expect that to move into Pennsylvania and New York. We've got a cold front that's draped here across the northern plains and into the upper Midwest. With this, we've seen some snow flurries. We have seen some very cold air that's going to move in, and also some windy conditions. The cold air is going to be pretty dramatic here. Just take a look at our temperatures on Monday in Minneapolis, St. Paul, Milwaukee, Chicago, from the mid-30s to around 40 degrees. All that's going to be changing tomorrow because that cold front is moving through as we speak. It's going to sweep through the region, and those temperatures are going to tumble. 9 your expected high in the Twin Cities, 17 in Milwaukee, Chicago 23. So bitterly cold weather is in your forecast, already occurring for some of you out there now. We've got some snow, lake effect snow for some of you here in Michigan. As those cold winds blow over the warmer lake waters, we can actually expect more of that in your forecast, not only in Michigan, also Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York. We've got some winter storm warnings in effect for parts of Michigan, including around Sault Ste. Marie, and winter weather advisories, Alpena over toward Traverse City. You're getting the snow here in Marquette too, and that extends on southward to around Kalamazoo and Muskegon. Even as far south as Fort Wayne, we've had reports of occasional snow. We do think that the heaviest snow will be in those lake effect favored areas, 3 to 6 inches. That's just through mid-morning tomorrow. Take a look at the dramatic temperature contrast that we're already seeing. As if it's not cool enough in Chicago and Kansas City in the 30s, you head to the other side of that front and it's even colder. You're at 18 in Minneapolis, St. Paul, to your current temperature in Fargo and in International Falls. And it's also very windy with this front. Winds are gusting 20 and 30 miles per hour. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 30-mile-per-hour wind gusts for you right now, giving you a wind chill right now of 16 below. Bitterly cold out there. If you must go outdoors, definitely bundle up because it's not going to get any better tonight or into tomorrow. And just check out Fargo, 27 below your current wind chill. So very cold, windy, snow and blowing snow, low wind chill readings, and as this front sweeps through, we will look for more lake effect snow here. Now, with a look a little farther east, here's Nick.
That now with Christina.
Well, in the west, we are seeing some clouds around, but not much precipitation. One thing that we have been seeing is some fog, seeing that in parts of Oregon and Idaho, but it's also been very persistent here in California, especially across the Central Valley of California. What's going on here? Why are we seeing such foggy conditions developing? Well, what we have is tool fog. Here's the setup. We've got an area of high pressure here over the western states with a low off the Pacific. The jet stream really far to the north, and the surface high and low are in favorable positions for the fog to develop. We're not seeing very strong winds at all, and what we're dealing with is at night and in the early morning hours in the Sacramento Valley as well as the San Joaquin Valley, fog has been developing. We saw it this morning and into this afternoon for some areas, and what we're going to see is that this pattern is not going to change much at all. So we're looking for more fog for the Central Valley here in your forecast for perhaps even the rest of the week. So watch out as you head out, and certainly take it a little extra slow if you're going to be driving with those reduced visibilities. Temperatures in the 40s in Seattle and Portland, 50s in San Francisco, 60s in LA and San Diego, but it's awfully chilly in Denver. You've cooled down to 25 right now. Not much precipitation except for some snow here in the northern Rockies. I will look for more of that tomorrow morning. Nick?
Christina?
Well, a labor dispute within a major airline is causing delays for some passengers today. Delta struggled to staff flights because some of their pilots refused to fly overtime shifts while negotiating a new contract. Although Delta did not have a specific number of flights canceled today because of crew shortages, the company was forced to scrub more than 300 flights between Friday and Sunday. So far, most customers appear to be patient with the situation.
I fly all the time, so they always have.
Delta is trying to call ahead to customers who may be affected by the situation. However, you may want to check the status of your flight before you head to the airport.
Good advice. And speaking of traveling, if you have travel plans tonight or tomorrow, stay tuned right here.
Travel Wise is coming up next. Stay with us. Well, snow could cause some travel problems in the Great Lakes. We have snow as well as some windy conditions here. So in those lake effect favorite areas, look out for snow, and really throughout the northern plains and the Great Lakes region, you can expect the windy weather. It's awfully blustery out there. This is our travel trouble spot because of the snow. Be careful I-75, I-90, I-80. Snow and blowing snow in the northeast, also some snow in the northern Rockies, but a bigger concern for some of you in the west may be the fog, especially in the Central Valley of California. We could also see that in the interior northwest and into the southern Appalachians. Here's the windy weather that I was mentioning. Minneapolis, St. Paul, Des Moines, Chicago, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, winds of 30 miles per hour or more are possible, and with cold weather moving in, the wind is going to make it feel even colder. So we've got snow here in the northeast. That includes you in Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Alpena. A chilly start to your day. Pretty quiet for most of the south. Atlanta, chilly at 28 tomorrow morning, 33 in Dallas. We'll expect snow from Michigan into Wisconsin and Ohio. Chicago, you'll start the day out at 15. 0 your morning low in Minneapolis, 9 below in Fargo. Definitely bundle up and look for more snow in the northern Rockies in the forecast, and fog in Boise, San Francisco, and LA. And stay tuned. We'll take a look at your weekly planner coming up next. Time Time now for the weekly planner and a look at our jet stream, a ridge over the west, more of a trough across the east, and we're going to actually have some pretty chilly weather moving in already into the northern plains, but eventually spreading on eastward. And we're also going to watch some systems moving out of the western states and on eastward that will provide some of you with some wintry weather. Let's take a look at where the wintry weather is going to be on Tuesday. We'll see that through the Great Lakes region. We actually have a front that's now in the northern plains and the upper Midwest that's going to move south and east. Behind that, some Arctic air is moving in, and as those cold winds blow over the warmer lake waters, we see lake effect snow developing here. The UP of Michigan, northern and western lower Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, western New York. We're not just expecting snow, it's also going to be very windy, so blowing snow will be a concern. And keep in mind that the temperatures are really going to be low, and with the wind, we're going to have very low wind chill readings, so it's going to feel even colder than the actual temperature indicates. Bundle up because it's just going to be very chilly. In the northern plains, we could see some light snow for you, and in the west, fog once again developing in the Central Valley of California. We've seen that pretty much every day for the past several days, and tomorrow should be no exception. We could still see fog on Wednesday. Still some snow showers in the Great Lakes region on Wednesday too, although not quite as widespread as Tuesday. Long underwear, heavy coats, and plenty of snow shovels are needed in Gaylord, Michigan today. Bitterly cold wind chills and snow have much of the Great Lakes in a tight grip. Details are just ahead. Hi and welcome to Weather Center, sponsored by Red Lobster. I'm Christina Abernathy along with Paul Goodlow.
Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Fog is still hanging around in parts of the west, stubborn fog. Christina will have more on that in a moment, but first...
Well, we have seen another day of very persistent fog here in the Central Valley of California, and it looks like it's going to be around a little while longer, although later on in our forecast we may see some changes in that. We'll have more coming up. Well, we do see the fog here not only in California, but in pockets here throughout the Northwest. It's been a problem for you too. And as Paul mentioned, we do have some snow that's falling here, Colorado, Wyoming, but also some snow back into the Plains states too. And that's where we'll start out, actually around Omaha, where we are reporting some light snow for you. You can see that that extends on northward here through western Iowa and generally moving very slowly off to the east. Also, we've seen some snow here in northeastern Colorado. Not snowing in Denver at the moment, but head over toward Akron, we are seeing some snow there, and it extends on into southeastern portions of Wyoming. Well, our temperatures have been a bit on the chilly side here in the west and in the northern plains. Right now in Rapid City, you're at 21. 38 in Billings, 28 in Lander, and 39 in Denver. But it is a little milder in Phoenix and San Diego, LA. You're all in the 70s right now. But up towards San Francisco, we have seen some fog here. And once again, here through the Sacramento and San Joaquin valleys, temperatures are a little low for you, and we do have the fog around here too. But in some other areas, not fog, but windy weather that we're watching. Wyoming, Colorado, up into Montana, winds have been gusting 20 and 30 miles per hour, and with some chilly weather around, the winds making it feel even colder. Your wind chill right now in Rapid City is 0, 22 in Denver, so bundle up if you're headed outdoors. As far as any precipitation, we will pick up a little bit of snow, not expecting any major amounts of snow here. Wyoming into Colorado, 1 to 3 inches through midnight tonight. And tomorrow, we're actually looking for pretty quiet weather for most of you with high pressure in control. But once again, look for fog to develop here in the Central Valley of California. Now, with a look a little farther east, here's Paul. Well, the forecast for this evening is going to be a snowy one here in the northeast and the Great Lakes region. We have a lake effect snow for you, those cold winds blowing over the warmer lake waters and in those lake effect favorite areas here in New York State and back into parts of Ohio and Pennsylvania. We will be looking for that wintry weather. We'll keep an eye on that. We have a few showers that could stick around in southern Florida, snow falling here in the plains, and also associated with this area of low pressure back in the Rockies and in the west. Fairly quiet as far as any precipitation is concerned, but we do have some fog here around Sacramento southward toward Fresno. We could actually expect more of that tomorrow morning, but other than that, the rest of the west should be very quiet. High pressure is in control, and that's keeping you nice and quiet in the west, but we will look for the area of low pressure in the Rockies to move into the south central U.S., and that's going to mean some snow and maybe a wintry mix of precipitation, Oklahoma, and then snow into Arkansas and Missouri. Still seeing some snow showers in the lakes region, and we'll see more of that into the early evening hours, although our area of low pressure here will tend to dampen out a bit. And just maybe a bit of wintry weather in the southern Appalachians with rain a little farther south where it's going to be a little warmer. And once again, high pressure in the west keeping you nice and quiet there. We will look for the heaviest snow this evening to be in those lake effect favorite areas here in New York and Pennsylvania, where we could pick up half a foot of snow or more. That's just through midnight. Our temperatures are going to be awfully chilly in the upper Midwest, dropping well below zero into the single digits and teens below zero in the Dakotas and into Minnesota, while in the Northeast and well into the deep South, actually, you'll see those lows dipping down into the 20s. Our high temperatures not warming up a lot through the upper Midwest. Again, single digits and teens there for you, but it will be milder across the southern tier states. Paul?
Time right here on the Weather Channel.
And you'll want to stay tuned. We've got more on your extended forecast coming up.
That's right. It's coming up on the Weekly Planner right after your local forecast. Stay with us.
Well, it's time now for the Weekly Planner. We have a trough in the east, more of a ridge over the west, and what that's going to mean is that we're going to see some chilly weather in some parts of the east, a little milder in the west. And we're also going to see some wintry weather, some precipitation that is. Let's take a look at that. And Wednesday we will look for snow showers from the northern plains into the Great Lakes. A system moving out of the Rockies could provide you with some snow here as it moves eastward toward the Mississippi Valley with snow, then rain and a wintry mix in between for parts of Mississippi and Oklahoma and into Arkansas. That will all wind down for Thursday, but still look for snow here in the northern plains and the upper Midwest, and fog continues in pockets here in the western states. We'll still see some of that, especially in Idaho on Friday. Then the next system moves out of the west and pushes eastward, and with that we're going to see rain and snow, sort of a broad area of precipitation here, and sandwiched in between the rain and the snow, look for that light mix of precipitation. That will wind down for Saturday, just a few showers here along the Gulf Coast, but the next system gets going in the west, and this one could be a pretty strong system that will be pushing into the plain states for Sunday, and that's going to mean wintry weather, showery conditions, and once again in between, as that moisture overrides the colder air that's in place, we can count on that mix in some areas, and we may see more of that on into Monday. More snowy, windy conditions, Kansas into Oklahoma, and maybe even some thunderstorms in the lower Mississippi Valley. And we will look for another active day on Tuesday as that system lifts off to the north and east. Snow, thunderstorms, and the wintry mix. We'll look for cold weather Wednesday in the upper Midwest, single digits and teens for highs, a little milder along the Gulf Coast. And we'll actually see a little bit of a warm up here in the south central U.S. on Thursday, not quite as warm for your Friday, as another blast of cold air moves into the northern plains Saturday, and definitely on into Sunday. We see those highs in the northern plains only getting into the single digits, and some areas not even above zero. Go back down toward Fresno, so some reduced visibilities there, and we think you may have more fog around tomorrow too. Now, as I mentioned, those temperatures have really plummeted here in the northern plains and the upper Midwest. Your temperature right now, Minneapolis, St. Paul, 8. You're at 17 in Chicago. International Falls right now, 1 degree for you. It is in the 30s and 40s across the Northeast, and in the Northwest we're seeing some upper 40s around Seattle and Portland. If you like mild weather, you have to head pretty far south to find temperatures in the 70s. LA, San Diego, and Phoenix, as well as some temperatures in the 60s here around Tampa and Miami. So it is nice and mild in these areas, but not so to the north. And as I mentioned, it's not only cold, it's also pretty windy out there. Behind that front, we are seeing winds gusting 20, 30, even 40 miles per hour here in parts of New York. Now, with this system moving out of the Rockies, we're also seeing some gusty winds for you winds 10 to 20 miles per hour with higher gusts, especially up into Montana. And again, when you combine the effects of the cold temperatures plus the windy conditions, you can get some dangerously low wind chill readings, and that's exactly what we're seeing here in the northern plains and the western lakes, where right now Chicago, 1 below is your wind chill. 3